Hey, and welcome to another digital marketing webinar from Get Digital Support. Today it is my website modern? So we're looking at all the modern tips and tricks to keep your website up to date, and we're going to look at both the design and functionality of your website, and actually look at some practical tips and strategies for implementing those design and functionality changes to bring your website up to speed, to make it look more pleasing and more functional, to convert more of your website users. So first thing I want to mention is that just a recap that Get Digital Support is here as a digital marketing consulting agency, training hub, and support center. Our mission is to assist and empower small and medium-sized businesses to be effective digital marketers and use technology to compete on a global scale. That is our mission. That's what keeps us doing what we do. And of course, Get Digital Support is part of the BeFresh Marketing Group. So we operate as Get Digital Support, but also 20 Sharp, which is our web design and SEO and digital advertising agency. Plus, BeFresh Media is our video production, animation, and photography design studio. And basically, we are a full-service marketing agency, and that is our background and where we're coming from to provide this information today in terms of updating your website and what looks good. I will say some of this is a little bit, personal opinion, but it does come from an experienced designer, a web developer, and our team here. We have a lot of ideas about what makes a website modern, and we're going to share that with you here today. And this is what we're going to talk about specifically as we get into it, looking at what does make a website modern, from design, images, a clear call to action. We're going to talk about headers, communication methods, and your footer. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to make your website look more modern. So again, just really giving you some tips and strategies for implementing all of these sort of ideas that we've conveyed in the first part of the webinar. So let's talk about what makes a website modern, starting off with design. And colors tend to make your website look more modern or outdated. So you want to think about bright colors, mostly just brand colors. There is something to say about a website with more neutral tones. That's still acceptable for sure, but definitely you want contrast, and contrast in your colors, meaning you've got buttons that really stand out, whether they're bright or neutral. At least they stand out from the background. They stand out from other elements on the page. But again, bright colors is a way to do that as well, as long as again they're on brand and they are useful and within your brand guidelines. So you want to think about that. But basically, one of my pet peeves is always just that seeing a website where there's just like one color that's taken from the logo and it's just everywhere, and it's just not very exciting, and it doesn't make things stand out. It just tends to feel like something's missing. So I always like to see lots of color and lots of different tonality, but with contrast so that things stand out nicely, right? So I mean, this example here, we can see even the use of color to highlight certain words in the text, certain buttons. We've got like an orange on the blue. Those are complementary colors, if you know your color theory. So obviously there's a lot of contrast between those two, and that orange is going to pop really well. And same with the blue and yellow, pretty complementary there. The blue text over the yellow background is it has a lot of contrast, so it's going to really stand out. And that's really, again, what we want to try and accomplish there. But again, lots of color is a great sort of design tip for you. The second thing is font. So, the main thing when it comes to font is making it readable, legible, and visible too. I mean, when we think about modern websites and the devices in which people are accessing these, a lot of times it's going to be on a phone, and therefore we have to think about making sure the font is big enough so that people can read it, and often that the best choice is what you like what you see here, a what's called a sans serif font that is just very clean, very legible, and very modern looking. Really, at the end of the day, that type of font, that style, is very modern and clean, and it works well, and it is just like very universal too. So we want to take a lot of consideration into the font choices. And then when it comes to layout, there you want to definitely get away from that very boxy style of website development. Utilizing the full width of your screen is always recommended, especially with this day and age, again, with multiple devices. Just making sure you take up that whole width, and then optimizing it depending on what device someone is using. The other thing to mention when it comes to layout, I tend to like a lot of space around different objects. And actually, I will mention that, or we'll talk more about that, I think, on one of these other points. But I think the main thing here too, again, is just like avoiding that just very boxy sort of column style that looks old. And I have a website at the end of this that is from the 90s, and you'll see exactly what I mean when I say like that, just one boxy column look. So I mentioned mobile optimized websites, or using websites on mobile devices. And this is incredibly critical, making sure that things like, images and text don't run off the screen when you resize to a mobile screen size. Making sure, again, that font is legible, and buttons are, not too close together so that, you can't click something properly. You want to make sure that buttons are big enough and there's nothing else around them, so that it's really easy. If you mean to click that one button, you're going to click that one button and not that other one or something else. So, this is a really big consideration. And, you might even think about, there's a concept that is mobile first design. So basically designing a website on mobile first, and then optimizing it for a desktop look. And the mentality is kind of shifting towards that method because of the amount of traffic that we're getting on mobile devices. There will come a time probably when that is a standard, I think, because it's just mobile device usage has been growing consistently, and it's almost, there will come a time when the importance of that view will outweigh the computer screen. And so that's what that is all about, just designing first for mobile and then optimizing it for web. And so if you have, let's say, a sushi shop or a coffee shop, somewhere that typically your customers are looking at your website on mobile devices, then that could be a strategy for you. Just go headfirst into a mobile website, and then think about the desktop version after the fact. And I mean, one example that I always like to show people with regards to that sort of style is if you ever look at the Starbucks website. Starbucks.com is, I think, a website that was fully designed with mobile users in mind. It's very just boxy and big and again colorful too. But when you look at it on a computer screen, the first thing I thought was this was definitely designed for mobile users, which is fine because again, if they realize that most of their users are on mobile devices, then that's a very valid design choice for them. So something to keep in mind. But even if you're not sort of designing first for mobile, it's still a key consideration in making sure that your website looks and functions properly, looks good and functions properly on a mobile device. So here's where we talk about breathing room. I did mention it earlier in terms of the layout, but I like having that breathing room space between objects. The reason being is that, when it comes to our call to action, and our messaging, making sure that we have space around these pieces of content will allow the viewer's eye to be drawn to those, and that information has a higher likelihood of getting across to that person when there's no other distractions. They can focus in on it and see it, and they're not distracted by all these other things going on. And so this screen here is a really great example of just lots of breathing room around this element. The shadow even kind of acts as a bit of a pointer, kind of drawing your eye into that, and so it just really helps to make that text pop out and the call to action get started button. Clean, simple, direct. This design is pretty fantastic. So that's it for design. I want to jump into talking about images as well, because just having good images on your website can take a bad design and make it passable, whereas you can have a great designed website but with terrible images, and it's not gonna those terrible images are gonna hurt your overall look of your website way more than the design. So I can't stress the importance enough about the quality of images. Having just really high quality images on your website can be one of the best investments that you will make in terms of the look, the feel, the quality of your website and that experience for your users. The other thing that's really important when it comes to those images is a consistent look across the board. So that can be done by hiring the same photographer, or getting the images from the same source. If you are getting stock images, you want to try and make sure that they are matched in their look and feel and their consistency. This just helps kind of unify the design of your entire website, because just like using colors throughout, you can create that consistent branding feel, and that's where the photos they can have that same impact and require that consistency to really tie everything together and keep your website really concise. So again, hiring the same photographer, matching the same style of photos, or if you're doing products, for example, making sure they're all white, or if you have a certain background, the background should be consistent across the board. And so yeah, there's just a lot to say about that, making sure that those are consistent from one photo to the next. And oh yeah, the other thing too, when we were doing this live, someone had asked what about getting photos from, like a free commons or like free stock websites? And, that's okay. There are quality images on some of those sites, but where I find it gets tricky is when you try and match the consistency of the look of those photos, because again, they're just free. You're getting what you can, and so it can be more difficult to match the look and feel of one image to the next on those sites. So that's where, like some paid sites can be a little bit more effective in that way, as well as hiring the same photographer. That's usually my main recommendation. Or our next point is using AI generated images. So this is obviously a new and emerging technology, and becoming more and more consistent in terms of something that we're seeing on websites these days, where you can generate images of any kind, and they're getting better and better all the time. Most of the time, I think still right now, for consistency, it's somewhat beneficial to prompt the AI with a certain artistic style. So whether that's like a painting style or something like that, it can stylize it a little bit more, so it sort of hides some of the flaws in that image. But again, this technology is getting better every day, and soon it's going to just be cranking out just like realistic looking images, no problem. So, but again, so my point with that is that, here's where we can get the consistency by, prompting the AI with the same either style. I've seen a lot of people prompting AI when they're asking for photos in like a certain style. They'll even reference like the type of film it's shot on or the type of camera that it's shot on, which just gives it that extra specific look to it. So that's a consideration. Or, you can, again, like we did a webinar on marketing with AI tools just a couple months ago. And one suggestion that I had for that was like I think it was like a doctor's office or a naturopath. Like if you were to create just a series of images, all in like a watercolor style. And so when you prompt the AI to just use this watercolor style, you can even, well, I don't want to make anyone angry with some maybe certain types of prompts, but basically all I'm trying to say is, you can get that consistency in different styles, and it's fantastic, and it really kind of ties your whole brand together, your whole website, all of that content. If all these images are looking the same in the same style, it can be really nice and effective. So, jumping into the header, this is, and when I talk about the header, I mean, I'm not only talking about like, your main navigation, pretty much, but also it does, we will touch on, the banner, image and things like that are above the fold, as we say in the web design biz. So essentially, I mean, your header though, should be easy to follow in terms of those navigation buttons, have a clear purpose. And that, by that, I mean, like we're directing people exactly where you want them to go, where you want them, well, what you want them to see. And this is another one that's a little bit of a, personal preferences that, I'm generally not a fan of the home button, just because, like, I've been designing websites for probably over 10 years, and like in that time, the logo at the top corner has always been a home button. And I think we're at the point where this is expected, this is known. I think we can stop putting a home button in the navigation. And the other reason why I suggest doing that is because, like, the main navigation is so critical in terms of directing people where you want them to go, that we don't want any distractions. We don't need this home button that is unnecessary. We don't need usually an about section, or even sometimes even a blog, like, doesn't necessarily need to be in that main navigation. If you are an online retailer, it's like you want to direct people to how they can buy from you, and you don't want to be confusing them or distracting them with anything else. Just here's how you can shop and buy, and keep it as simple as possible and direct and easy to follow. And so I also wanted to say with this example too, I just really liked how colorful it was. Again, just another example of the use of color, but also how what's interesting is that the color is in that background image, and the text itself is just like a black or dark color, and so we're still getting some really legible font and text there, and with lots of contrast, but still lots of color in the background. So it's just a really nice balance of sort of all those design elements that I mentioned off the top. Next, I want to talk about the call to action. So again, we're focusing on what we want people to do, and this could be anything from a sign up, a buy now button, a book appointment, a call or email button, and it's really important to just put your focus on that. This example, I will say, is a little bit busy in that it sort of has everything all happening at once. Like, we've got our sign up button, we've got a subscribe pop-up newsletter right in our face, but then we've also got a start shopping button right down below that. So it's a little bit muddled, I will say, but the point was just making sure that we've got our call to action, and there is some focus on it, and just making sure that we can draw people's eyes to it. If we think about color again, the having that green button, again, we're seeing lots of contrast there. Like, it's nice and bright. It's very visible, and it's the most colorful thing on that page. So your eye is obviously really drawn to that when you're looking at this page. So just lots of good things happening on here in terms of both the design and the call to actions, and the functionality. When it comes to communication methods, I do have chatbots here. I know a lot of people have strong feelings about chatbots. I didn't put it at the top necessarily because I think they're the most important. I just did it so that it was more visually appealing from a layout standpoint on our webinar content here. But I think chatbots, there is something to say about the effective use of them. Certainly in customer service is where I've seen a lot of just positive use cases in answering people's questions quickly and helping them resolve any issues. It can be it doesn't have to be automated. There are lots of automated and AI sort of driven options out there, but you can just set some up that just ding on your phone and you can respond to people directly. Hopefully you respond to them quickly so that they're still there on your website when you get back to them. But it's certainly, it is a modern functionality that we're starting to see more and more of, and so it certainly can give your website some extra clout in terms of the modern design and approach and look to your website by just having a chatbot. Even if people don't use it, it does, I think, give you a look of being pretty technologically advanced. But then email forms are pretty standard. Call now buttons can be really important as well, depending on the type of business that you're in. You can even think about when it comes to mobile optimized websites, having a call now button that only shows up when it's on, when your screen is sized to mobile. That call now button pops up because it assumes that this person's on a phone and they could actually press that button to give you a call. That's a really great functionality, especially again if you're in like a customer service, or if you take a lot of phone calls. That can just put people right in touch with your phone number on their phones, and just saves them from having to go looking. And then the footer, I did want to talk about the footer again, just in relation to the header, when we talked about, taking out the home button, taking out the About Us section. The footer is the place for all that other stuff, all the other things that don't need to be on your header, but are still, important, of course. Things like your privacy policy and your cookie policy and things like that, right? Like they need to be accessible, of course, but they don't need to be, right in your face. They can be tucked down in the footer. But I think, a lot of times too, even your About Us can go there. Anything, corporate related, things like that. You can make your footer as big as it needs to be. I mean, this example here is pretty big. It's from Ahrefs, a website that I like to use. But this is actually one of their older versions, I think, because the one I'm familiar with is even like twice as big as this. So you can really cram it full of, those other links that are not as important. And it just helps keep everything else really clean and focused on the rest of your web page. So now we're going to talk about how you can actually make your website look more modern. Here are some strategies to implement some of those design changes, functionality changes to modernize your current website. So one of the biggest things is, the platform that you choose or that you have. If you are on one of these platforms, so WordPress, Shopify, Square are kind of the top three that we usually use or recommend to business owners. And the reason being is that, they all offer lots of flexibility, customization, design templates. So with WordPress, it sort of depends on how you're approaching it. There's different themes you can download, install. You can even buy themes separately. You can use page builders. So we often use a page builder called Elementor, and it itself comes with different design templates and things. So you just apply a design theme or template to your page, and away you go. So it can be a pretty effective way at just applying a look and a modern design to your website using the content that you have. Shopify, same thing, templates that you can use. I will say, a lot of the good ones you have to pay for. But what I do like about Shopify is that it is really easy to install and even fully design a new template in the background, so without having to disrupt your current shop. You can install another template, play with it, make sure all the design is looking perfect before you just switch it over and make it live. And that process is really simple, and it's amazing, like that it can work so effectively. So that is one of my favorite things about Shopify, and being able to play with different designs and make updates. And then Square is sort of similar. I mean, there's lots of different templates that you can apply to your site. I guess Squarespace is another one too, similar. I think most people just get those two mixed up anyway, Square and Squarespace. But yeah, same thing. Lots of templates to choose from. Pretty easy to make updates and quickly modernize your website with either just like changing the template or updating it, or buying a new theme kind of thing, which is an option from, I think, almost all of them. But again, yeah, updating those templates or themes to your website will really give you a quick, modern update. And oftentimes you can do it pretty seamlessly so that it doesn't disrupt your main page. You can sort of port over or use all of your existing content, and the hope is that it won't sort of blow up and distort things too much. Again, that's where Shopify is kind of nice. You can do it in the background, and tweak all those any errors or anything that doesn't look right before making it live. But a lot of those platforms, yeah, you can just make an update to the template or theme, and it will use all of your existing content, and that's really the easiest solution to making that update. I did want to mention Canva as well, because the reality is Canva is an amazing design tool, and there's tons of design inspiration there. So not only from what you're probably used to, like social media posts and flyers and things like that, but you can actually design websites, or even just like pull up or search through website templates, and get some inspiration from that in terms of color palettes, fonts, images. You can actually even, that's a good point, images you can access and download stock images from Canva as well. And again, that's a nice way to get some consistency there if you have a Canva Pro account. And speaking of Canva Pro accounts, the brand kit is, I think, one of the best features of a Canva Pro account. And the brand kit is really just like a place where you house all of your logos, all the fonts for your brand, and all your colors. You can even now upload sort of brand images, graphics, and other things that are like just very consistent from one design to the next. But I mean, this is like just such an amazing tool. I find I'm using my brand kits, because we've got multiple brands, of course, multiple times a day. Even though I have Adobe Suite and Photoshop, Illustrator, none of those other products like package up all of my branding as neatly as Canva. And so I use it consistently to access just different logos. And, if I'm doing something and I'm like, oh yeah, I need that brand color, I just go to Canva and grab that swatch for whatever else I'm trying to do with it. So again, I mean, it's just a really great place to find inspiration, design some sample pages, and even put together your brand kits and house all of that info together. So when it comes to imaging, of course, I mentioned off the top, like investing in high quality images and video can be or is one of the best investments that you can make with regards to your website, I think, because again, having those high quality images is just going to really elevate the quality of your entire website more so than just good design. And so that's why I think the best thing you can do is hire a really good photographer, or look at stock sites that are where you can find that consistency, or look at AI as an option. But consistency, high quality, I can't stress that enough. The other thing that's really important to mention is that if your website is looking outdated, it could be your branding that's holding it back, right? Because oftentimes every time we build a website, we are starting with the branding and building from that. And so if your brand colors are outdated or your style is outdated, then it's not going to do any favors for the rest of the website. The rest of the website's going to look just as bad as the logo. And yeah, the other thing to say about that is like, if your website looks super clean and modern and your logo is just looking old and outdated, then there's just like a disconnect there too, which is not good. So, if that's the case for you, it's really important to maybe consider just a refresh of your branding. So that way, with that refreshed, modern looking branding, the rest of your website can follow suit and just really look that much better, that much more modern and exciting for your visitors. And here it is. This is the very boxy website from the 90s. This is the eBay homepage from the 90s. I think probably the original eBay website. But yeah, the point is, if your website looks like this, you probably need to just completely refresh it. Or, again, if you're on a platform that's just like not very conducive to good design, or not doesn't have the functionality that you want or need, then it might be worth considering a full-on redesign, refresh of your website. We did have some questions too about how to, or is it possible to move a website to a new platform and keep some of the content? And the answer is unfortunately no, like aside from just copying and pasting. So it is a more manual process. There's not really any platforms that are sort of cross-compatible. I mean, WordPress is one though that there's a whole spectrum of WordPress websites, whether you're using certain templates or a page builder. So WordPress can be moved from one place to another. It can be updated, and technically you can keep a lot of the content in there, but the main thing is just making sure that it's all really up to date, consistent, and clean, modern looking. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So if there's anything outdated from that content, just let it go. No need hanging on to it, just like this old eBay website. And that is it. That is our Is My Website Modern webinar. Hopefully you found this useful, and hopefully you will join us for some of our next upcoming webinars. We've got some on blogging. We've got one for charities specifically, and branding we've got coming up. So be sure to register for those. It's free, and when you register, it will you'll get a link to this recording of that webinar, so that it doesn't matter if you can't make it. At least you'll get that recording, and you'll get all the information that you need to hopefully take your marketing to the next level. And that's what we're here for. So hopefully, again, you found this helpful, and hopefully we see you at the next one. Bye for now. Thanks for joining us. Take care.